Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, as we embark on this journey together, I want you to understand that everything you seek, everything you desire, and everything you wish to become already exists within you. The world you see around you is nothing but a reflection of your inner state, a mirror of your consciousness, and it is through the deliberate, consistent focus on yourself that you can shape this inner world and, consequently, your outer reality. Now, when I speak of focusing on yourself, I do not mean this in the egotistical sense that the world often promotes. No, I speak of a deeper, more profound focus, a focus on your true self, your divine nature, your I am. For you see, you are not merely a physical being having a spiritual experience, but a spiritual being having a human experience. And it is in recognizing and embracing this truth that you begin to tap into the infinite power that resides within you. Every day, as you wake from your slumber, you have a choice. You can choose to be swept away by the currents of the world, allowing external circumstances to dictate your thoughts, feelings, and actions. Or you can choose to focus on yourself, to turn inward and connect with the God within you. For make no mistake, my dear friends, you are God in human form, expressing itself as you. This focus on self is not a selfish act, but the most selfless thing you can do. For as you elevate your consciousness, as you align yourself with your divine nature, you elevate the entire world. You become a beacon of light, illuminating the path for others to follow. But how? You may ask, does one focus on oneself every day? It begins with awareness. Awareness of your thoughts, your feelings, your beliefs. For these are the building blocks of your reality. Every thought you think, every emotion you feel, every belief you hold is shaping your world in this very moment. And it is through becoming aware of these inner movements that you can begin to consciously direct them. Imagine, if you will, that your mind is a garden. Every thought is a seed planted in this garden. Some thoughts are beautiful flowers, others are noxious weeds. By focusing on yourself every day, you become the master gardener of your mind. You carefully select which seeds to plant, which thoughts to nurture, and which beliefs to water with your attention. This, my dear friends, is the essence of what I teach. The law of assumption states that if you assume a state, if you live from it as if it were already true, it must manifest in your outer world. But to do this effectively, you must focus on yourself every day. You must cultivate the inner state that corresponds to your desired reality. Let us delve deeper into this concept. When you focus on yourself, you are essentially focusing on your I am. I am is the name of God, and it is also your name. When you say I am, you are invoking the creative power of the universe. This is why it is crucial to be mindful of what follows I am in your thoughts and speech. If you constantly tell yourself, I am tired, I am broke, I'm unlucky, you are creating that reality. But when you focus on yourself every day, when you connect with your true nature, you can begin to consciously choose empowering I am statements. I am abundant, I am loved, I'm successful. These are not mere affirmations, but declarations of your true state of being. Now, some of you might be thinking, but Neville, how can I declare myself to be something I am not yet experiencing in my physical reality? And to this I say, congratulations. You have just identified the very belief that has been holding you back. For you see, time is an illusion of the physical world. In the realm of spirit, in your true state of being, everything already exists in the eternal now. When you focus on yourself every day, you begin to see beyond the illusion of time and space. You start to understand that the version of you that has already achieved your desires, that is already living your dream life, exists right now. And by aligning your consciousness with that version of yourself, you bring it into your physical experience. This, my friends, is the power of imagination. Imagination is not some fanciful daydreaming, but the very substance of reality. The world you see around you was once only imagined. Every invention, every work of art, every human achievement began as a mere thought, an imaginal act. And it is through the focus on self, through the deliberate use of your imagination, that you can reshape your world. When you focus on yourself every day, You are essentially engaging in a form of mental diet. Just as you are careful about what you put into your physical body, you must be equally discerning about what you feed your mind. The thoughts you entertain, the mental images you dwell upon, the inner conversations you engage in, these are the nourishment for your consciousness. And just as a healthy physical diet requires consistency, so too does this mental diet. You cannot expect to transform your life by focusing on yourself once in a while, or only when you remember to do so. No. This must become a daily practice, as natural and necessary as breath. Each morning, as you rise from your sleep, take a moment to focus on yourself. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and connect with your I am. Feel the divine presence within you, the God that you are. Then, throughout your day, maintain this connection. Be aware of your thoughts, your feelings, your reactions to the world around you. When you find yourself slipping into negative patterns, gently bring your focus back to yourself. Remember, you are not your thoughts. You are not your emotions. You are the awareness behind them, the consciousness that observes. And in this awareness lies your power to choose, to redirect your focus. As you go about your day, practice the art of revision. This is a powerful technique that allows you to reshape your past and consequently your present and future. If you encounter a situation that is less than desirable, do not dwell on it. Instead, in your imagination, revise the event. See it playing out exactly as you would have wished it to. Feel the emotions you would have felt had it happened in that ideal way. This is not denial or escapism. This is you exercising your God-given power to choose the reality you wish to experience. For remember, the outer world is but a reflection of your inner state. By revising events in your imagination, you are changing your inner state, and thus your outer reality must conform. Now, let us address a common misconception. Some may think that focusing on oneself every day means ignoring the world around them or neglecting their responsibilities. Nothing could be further from the truth. When you truly focus on yourself, when you align with your divine nature, you naturally become more present, more engaged with life. You see, when you're not focused on yourself, you are at the mercy of external circumstances. You react to life rather than creating it. But when you maintain a consistent focus on self, you become the creator of your reality. You respond to life from a place of inner peace and power. This focus on self also enhances your relationships with others. For when you are centered in your true self, when you are connected to the God within, you naturally radiate love, compassion, and understanding. You no longer seek validation for fulfillment from others. For you have found the source of all love and abundance within yourself. As you practice focusing on yourself every day, you will begin to notice subtle shifts in your perception. The world around you may appear brighter, more vibrant. Synchronicities may become more frequent. You may find yourself naturally drawn to people and opportunities that align with your desires. This is because as you focus on yourself, as you elevate your consciousness, you begin to vibrate at a higher frequency. And like attracts like, you become a magnet for experiences that match your inner state. This is the law of attraction in action, but it goes beyond mere positive thinking. It is about embodying the state of your desire, living from the end result. Let me share with you a powerful exercise that you can incorporate into your daily routine. Each night, as you lay in your bed ready to sleep, enter into a state of relaxation. Take several deep breaths, allowing your body to sink into the mattress. Now, in your imagination, construct a scene that implies the fulfillment of your desire. If your desire is for financial abundance, see yourself looking at a bank statement with a balance that thrills you. If it's a loving relationship you seek, feel the warmth of your beloved's embrace. Whatever your desire may be, create a short, simple scene that implies its fulfillment. Now here's the crucial part. Enter the scene. Don't just watch it like a movie, but step into it. Feel it as real. Engage all your senses. What do you see? What do you hear? What do you feel? What do you smell? Make it as vivid and real as possible. And as you do this, feel the naturalness of it. Feel as though this is your reality now. Repeat this scene over and over, always from the first-person perspective, always feeling it as real and natural. Do this until you fall asleep. This exercise, performed consistently, has the power to reshape your subconscious beliefs. And you see, your subconscious mind does not distinguish between what is vividly imagined and what is physically experienced. By repeatedly entering into this imaginal scene, you are impressing upon your subconscious the reality of your desire. And your subconscious, being the faithful servant that it is, will work tirelessly to bring about the conditions necessary for the manifestation of this state. This nightly practice is a powerful way to focus on yourself, to align your consciousness with your desires. But remember, this focus on self should not be limited to a few minutes before sleep. It must permeate your entire day. As you go about your daily activities, maintain an awareness of your inner state. Are you feeling anxious? Pause and reconnect with your I am. Are you doubting yourself? Remember that you are God expressing as you, and doubt has no place in the divine mind. Are you feeling a lack or limitation? Remind yourself of your true abundant nature. This constant self-awareness, this continuous focus on your inner state is the key to mastering your reality. For you are not a victim of circumstances, but the creator of your life experience. Every moment of every day, you are choosing the reality you experience through your focus. Now, I want to address something that many of you may be experiencing as you embark on this journey of self-focus. You may find that as you begin to consciously direct your thoughts and align with your desires, challenges arise. Old patterns may resurface, doubts may creep in, and external circumstances may seem to contradict your inner work. Do not be discouraged by this. In fact, welcome it. For these challenges are not obstacles, but opportunities. They're bringing to the surface old beliefs and patterns that no longer serve you, allowing you to consciously choose again. When you encounter resistance, whether internal or external, simply see it as an indication that change is occurring. The old must be uprooted before the new can fully take root. Remember, the circumstances of your life are not the cause of your inner state, but the effect of it. By maintaining your focus on yourself, by persisting in the assumption of your desired state, regardless of appearances, you are causing a shift at the deepest level of your being. And this shift must, by law, be reflected in your outer world. As you focus on yourself every day, you will begin to experience a profound sense of peace and power. You will realize that you are not at the mercy of the world, but that the world is responding to you. This realization is freedom. It is the understanding that you are the operant power in your life, that your consciousness is the one and only reality. Now let us delve deeper into the practical application of this teaching. How can you maintain this focus on self throughout your busy day? It begins with setting the tone each morning. Upon waking, before you engage with the world, take a few moments to center yourself. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and affirm your true nature. I am God, expressing as your nature. I am love. I am abundance. Feel the truth of these statements. Don't just repeat them mechanically, but feel them resonating in every cell of your being. This is not positive thinking or self-deception. This is you acknowledging and embodying your true divine nature. As you go about your day, make it a habit to check in with yourself regularly. Set reminders if you need to. Every hour or so, pause and ask yourself, what am I focusing on right now? What state am I embodying? If you find that you've slipped into negative patterns, gently bring your focus back to your desired state. Remember, every moment is a new opportunity to choose. You are not bound by your past thoughts or actions. In each instant, you have the power to shift your focus, to realign with your true self, to choose again. Another powerful practice is to see everyone and everything as yourself pushed out. This means recognizing that the world you perceive is a reflection of your consciousness. The people you interact with, the situations you encounter are all aspects of yourself. By seeing the world in this way, you take full responsibility for your reality. If you encounter someone who is rude or unkind, Instead of reacting negatively, pause and ask yourself, what aspect of my consciousness is deflecting? How can I shift my inner state to experience more kindness in my world? This practice not only empowers you, but also cultivates compassion and understanding. As you focus on yourself every day, you will naturally find yourself letting go of the need to control external circumstances. You will understand that true power lies not in manipulating the outside world, but in mastering your inner world. This doesn't mean you become passive. On the contrary, you become more effective in your actions because they stem from a place of inner alignment rather than fear or lack. Now I want to address a question that often arises. Neville, how long will it take for my desires to manifest? And to this I say, it is done. The moment you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, when you truly embody the state of your desire, it is finished in the realm of spirit. Your role now is to persist in this state, to continue focusing on yourself and your desired reality, regardless of appearances. Time is a construct of the physical world, but in the realm of spirit, everything exists now. Your desire is not something to be achieved in the future, but a state to be assumed now. As you focus on yourself every day, as you live from the state of the wish fulfilled, you will find that the time it takes for your desire to manifest in the physical world becomes irrelevant. You are already living it in consciousness, which is the only reality. This understanding brings about a profound shift in your approach to life. You no longer live in a state of wanting, of lack, of yearning for something in the future. Instead, you live from a state of fulfillment, of completeness. This is the state from which miracles naturally flow. As you continue to focus on yourself every day, you will find that your desires themselves begin to evolve. What once seemed important may fade away, replaced by deeper, more meaningful aspirations. This is a natural result of aligning with your true self. You begin to desire, not from a place of lack or social conditioning, but from your divine nature. Remember, my dear friends, that this work of focusing on yourself is not a means to an end. It is not something you do until you get what you want and then discard. It is a way of life, a continuous communion with your divine self. It is through this ongoing focus that you not only manifest your desires, but also discover your true purpose and express your unique gifts to the world. As we near the end of our time together, I want to impress upon you the importance of persistence. The world around you may not change overnight. Old patterns and beliefs may resist your new focus, but do not be discouraged. Your persistent focus on self, your consistent assumption of your desired state, is a mighty force. It is reshaping your world at the most fundamental level. Trust in the law. Trust in your divine nature. Trust in the power of your focused consciousness. For as surely as the sun rises each morning, your outer world must conform to your inner state. It is law. In closing, I urge you to make this focus on self your highest priority. Let it be the foundation upon which you build your life. For in doing so, you are not only transforming your own experience, but contributing to the elevation of all consciousness. Remember, you are God expressing as you. You are the creator of your reality. You are the operant power in your life. Focus on yourself every day, align with your true divine nature, and watch as miracles unfold in your life. Go forth now with this knowledge and power. Apply these teachings diligently. Focus on yourself every day. Live from your desired state. And know with absolute certainty that your world must and will conform to your focused consciousness. You are blessed. You are divine. You are powerful beyond measure. Now go and create the life of your dreams. It is your birthright. It is your destiny. It is done. Thank you.
Let me share with you what I mean. In the beginning was the unconditioned awareness of being, and this awareness desired to express itself. The supreme intelligence that we call God began to imagine, and all creation came into being. The worlds were framed by the word of God, meaning that God's imaginal acts became the realities of experience. And you, being made in the image of God, possess this same creative power. I say to you, whatever you desire, first you must assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. If you want success in your endeavors, you must first enter the state of consciousness where you feel that success is already yours. If you want health, you must first assume the feeling of being healthy. If you want wealth, you must first enter into the state of the wealthy. The secret lies in a principle simple that most dismiss it. Consciousness is the only reality, and what you are conscious of being, you become. All things exist in the human imagination, and it is through the human imagination that things are made manifest. Consider a simple example from my own experience. Years ago, I desired to travel to Barbados to see my family, but there seemed to be no way for this to happen. The tickets were too expensive, my commitments in New York too pressing. Yet, instead of accepting these so-called facts, I began to live in the assumption that I was already in Barbados. Each night before sleep, I would imagine the waves crashing on the shore, feeling the warm Barbadian sun on my face, hearing my family's voices welcoming me home. I persisted in this assumption, feeling the joy and gratitude of being in Barbados. And within a matter of weeks, against all reasonable expectations, I received a letter from my brother with money for passage to Barbados. What seemed impossible to my reasoning mind was made manifest through the power of my imaginal act. Do you see the principle at work? I did not manipulate events externally. I did not struggle or strain. I simply changed my state of consciousness, and the outer circumstances rearranged themselves to match this new inner conviction. This is why I tell you to live as if everything always works out. Because when you enter that state of consciousness, when you truly believe and feel it to be true, the universe moves in harmony with your assumption. This is not wishful thinking. This is the law of consciousness. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. These words from Proverbs reveal the creative principle of all existence. Your thoughts, imbued with feeling, create the conditions and circumstances of your life. The outer world is nothing more than a reflection of your inner assumptions. Many of you come to me asking how to manifest specific desires: a new job, a loving relationship, improved health, financial abundance. And I always tell you the same thing. You must first assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. You must live from the end. If you want a new job, you must feel the satisfaction and security of having that job now. If you want a loving relationship, you must feel the joy and companionship of that relationship now. If you want health, you must feel the vitality and strength of perfect health now. For imagination creates reality, and what you assume, you become. Your assumption, though false to others if persisted in, will harden into fact. This is the creative law by which all things come into being. But I hear some of you say, Neville, I have tried to imagine good things, but nothing happens. To this I respond, have you truly entered the state? Have you actually assumed the feeling of the wish fulfilled? Or have you merely wished and hoped, while secretly believing in limitation and failure? The difference is crucial. When you truly assume a state, you live and think from it. You do not mentally stand outside it, hoping it will come to pass. You step into it completely, embody it fully, and sustain that feeling regardless of appearances. Consider the biblical story of Daniel. When he was thrown into the den of lions, he did not focus on the danger around him. He maintained an inner state of peace and safety, knowing that God, his own wonderful human imagination, was with him, and the lions could not touch him, because he refused to accept the state of fear that would have made them real threats. This is what it means to live as if everything always works out. It means to so fully occupy the state of your fulfilled desire that you expect nothing but the best, regardless of what your senses may temporarily report. Now let me clarify something important. To live as if everything always works out does not mean ignoring problems or being irresponsible. It means approaching challenges from a higher level of consciousness where solutions become self-evident. When you assume the state of the wish fulfilled, you naturally take the actions that someone in that state would take. If you assume health, you will find yourself naturally making healthier choices. If you assume abundance, you will find yourself recognizing and acting upon opportunities that lead to greater abundance. If you assume loving relationships, you will naturally embody the qualities that foster love. Your outer actions flow from your inner state. So first change the inner state, and the outer actions will follow naturally and effortlessly. I want to share with you a profound truth that few understand. Time is purely psychological. It does not exist in the way most believe it does. What we call the future is simply a present possibility pressing upon us, seeking expression. And what we call the past is but a present memory. All of existence, past, present, and future, exist now, in this eternal moment. And it is your present assumption that determines which aspect of this infinite now you will experience as your reality. This is why I tell you to live as if everything already works out. Because in the realm of true reality consciousness, it already has. Your desired state already exists as a present possibility. Your job is not to create it, but to select it through your assumption and thereby make it your present experience. Let me illustrate this with another personal experience. Once I found myself in need of a larger lecture hall for my talks in New York. The current venue was too small for the growing audience, but larger halls were expensive and difficult to secure. Instead of fretting over this problem, I simply assumed that the perfect venue had already been provided. I would walk through the streets of New York, feeling a deep sense of gratitude for this wonderful new hall that was now mine for use. I did not know how it would come about, but I persisted in the assumption that it was already done. And within a matter of days, I received a call from a gentleman who offered me the use of a beautiful hall at a price I could easily afford. He had attended one of my lectures and felt compelled to make this offer. Do you see how it works? I did not make this happen through physical effort. I made it happen by selecting a state of consciousness in which it was already accomplished, and then living from that state. The outer circumstances had no choice but to rearrange themselves to match my inner conviction. This is the secret of living as if everything always works out. You acknowledge that in consciousness, which is the only reality, it already has worked out. And then the so-called outer world must conform to this inner reality. But some of you may be thinking, this sounds wonderful. But what about when things go wrong? What about disappointments and failures? My answer to this is simple yet challenging. There are no failures when you understand the law of consciousness. What appears as failure is simply the result of your assumptions and can be changed by changing those assumptions. If you find yourself experiencing something unwanted, ask yourself, what am I assuming that makes this experience necessary? For every experience reflects some belief, some assumption that you hold. Change the assumption and you change the experience. Remember the story of Job in the Bible. The thing I feared has come upon me. Job's fears, which were nothing more than negative assumptions, created the very experiences he dreaded. But when he changed his consciousness, when he stopped fearing and started imagining better things, his fortunes were restored. So when apparent setbacks occur, do not despair. Do not externals, see them as temporary reflections of past assumptions, which can be altered by your new assumptions. Live as if everything always works out, not as a denial of present service, but as a commitment to the truth that consciousness is the only reality and your consciousness can be changed from this moment forward. Many approach life as though success were determined by external factors, economic conditions, other people's opinions, past failures, or personal limitations. But I tell you, the only limits to your life are those you accept in your own thinking. Change your thinking, or more accurately, change your consciousness, and you change your world. Now let me address a common misconception. Many believe that to assume a state means to verbally affirm or to visualize it. These practices can be helpful, but they are merely techniques to aid in the essential act, which is to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. It is not enough to say, everything works out for me. It is not even enough to visualize things working out. You must capture the feeling, the conviction, the certainty that everything is working out now. For feeling is the secret, the creative power that brings all things into being. How do you know when you have successfully captured this feeling? You will know by a peculiar sense of relief. A feeling of it is done. There is no more anxiety, no more striving, no more wondering how it will happen. There is only a quiet confidence that it is finished. And once you have this feeling, you must persist in it. The Bible says, I shall persist until I succeed. This persistence is not a struggle. It is simply the natural dwelling in the state of the wish fulfilled, regardless of appearances to the contrary. Some time ago, a woman came to me in great distress. Her husband had left her for another woman and she wanted him to return. I told her that if she wanted her husband back, she must assume the feeling of being happily married to him again. She must live from the assumption that he had already returned and that their marriage was more loving than ever. At first, she found this difficult. The evidence of her senses, the empty house, the divorce papers, his relationship with another woman, seemed to contradict the assumption I was asking her to make. But I reminded her that consciousness is the only reality and that the outer world must conform to her inner assumptions. So she began to sleep each night as though her husband were lying beside her. She would mentally hear his voice, feel his presence, experience the joy of their reunion. During the day, she would wear her wedding ring and think from the assumption of being a happily married woman. Within a month, her husband called her. He was confused about his feelings, he said. He missed her. Could they meet to talk? This led to a reconciliation and eventually moved back home. Their marriage was indeed restored, and according to her, it was stronger than before. What happened here? Did she somehow manipulate or control her husband? Absolutely not. She simply changed her own consciousness, her own assumptions. And since consciousness is the only reality, the outer circumstances, including her husband's feelings and actions, had to rearrange themselves to match her new inner conviction. This is the power you possess. This is why I urge you to live as if everything always works out. Because when you truly assume this state, when you live from it with conviction, the universe has no choice but to reflect it back to you in the form of outer experience. Now there is another aspect of this principle that I must address. When I tell you to live as if everything always works out, I am not suggesting that every specific desire you have will be fulfilled exactly as you imagine it. Sometimes what comes is even better than what you had specifically envisioned. The deeper truth is that when you live in a state of knowing that everything works out for your good, you open yourself to infinite possibilities that your limited human mind could not conceive. You align yourself with the divine flow, which always moves toward greater expansion, greater joy, greater fulfillment. I have seen this in my own life countless times. I would assume a specific state, seeking a particular outcome. And while that outcome might or might materialize exactly as imagined, something would always come that perfectly fulfilled the essence of my desire, often in ways far more wonderful than I had originally conceived. This is why it is wise to combine specific imaginal acts with a general assumption that all is well, that everything is working together for your good. This keeps you both focused and flexible, both intentional and open to even greater possibilities than your current mental framework can envision. The Bible tells us, eye has not seen, nor ear heard, neither have entered into the heart of man the things which God has prepared for them that love him. This means that what awaits you when you live in the assumption that everything works out is far greater than anything you can currently imagine. So live boldly in that assumption. Know that the very intelligence that created the stars and sustains the universe is working on your behalf, guiding you toward your highest good, arranging the perfect circumstances for your growth and joy. Let me tell you about a young man who came to my lectures years ago. He was struggling financially, barely able to pay his rent, working a job he despised. I shared with him this principle we're discussing tonight, to live as if everything always works out. He began to assume the feeling of financial security and meaningful work. He would fall asleep each night feeling the relief and satisfaction of having plenty of money and doing work he loved. He would imagine the congratulations of friends, the feeling of looking at his bank statement with satisfaction, the joy of waking up excited to go to work. Within 3 months, He was offered a position at a company he greatly admired, doing work aligned with his passions and talents. The salary was twice what he had been making. What's more, he met his future wife through this new job, something he hadn't specifically imagined, but which fulfilled his deeper desire for companionship and love. Had he focused only on the specific job he thought he wanted, or the exact amount of money he thought he needed, he might have missed this greater fulfillment that was awaiting him. By living in the general assumption that everything works out perfectly, he opened himself to possibilities beyond his limited conception. This is the art of living wisely with this principle. You combine specific imaginal acts for the things you currently desire with a general assumption that all is well, that the intelligence within you knows what you truly need and is guiding you perfectly. Now let me address another important aspect of living as if everything always works out. It is the attitude toward what we call problems or challenges. When you truly embody this principle, you no longer see problems as obstacles, but as opportunities for growth and redirection. Every apparent setback contains within it the seed of an equivalent or greater benefit. Every closed door points you toward an open door that leads to something better. This is not positive thinking. This is the absolute law of consciousness. When you live as if everything always works out, you develop a deep trust in the unfolding of life. You know that even what appears as delay, disappointment, or defeat is actually part of a larger pattern leading to your good. With this trust comes a profound peace that transcends understanding. I recall a man who attended my lectures who had invested heavily in a business venture that failed. He lost nearly everything. Most people would have been devastated, caught in a state of regret, anxiety, and fear. But this man, understanding the principle we're discussing, chose to assume that this apparent failure was actually setting him up for something far better. He would say to himself, this is working out perfectly for me. This apparent loss is actually guiding me toward my greater good. He felt genuine gratitude for the experience, trusting that it contained a valuable lesson and a new direction. Within 6 months, he had started a new business based on insights gained from the failure of the previous one. This new venture proved far more successful than the original could ever have been. Looking back, he could clearly see that what had seemed like a devastating loss was actually the perfect redirection he needed. This is the kind of trust I am inviting you to cultivate, not a passive resignation to whatever happens, but an active assumption that everything is working together for your good. The Bible tells us, all things work together for good to them that love God. And who is this God they love? It is your own I am, your own consciousness. When you love the I am within you, when you trust it completely, all things do indeed work together for your good. Now, I want to speak about something that few teachers address. When you live as if everything always works out, you must be willing to let go of how you think it should work out. This is perhaps the most challenging aspect of this principle, but also the most liberating. Many people try to control exactly how their desires will be fulfilled. They not only imagine what they want, but also try to dictate precisely how it must come to them. This is a mistake that often delays or prevents the manifestation of their desires. When you truly live as if everything always works out, you surrender the how to the infinite intelligence of your deeper self. You trust that the way will be shown, that the perfect circumstances will arrange themselves, often in ways far more elegant and efficient than your limited human mind could have devised. This surrender is not weakness. It is the highest form of spiritual power. It is the recognition that your conscious mind sees only a tiny fraction of the infinite possibilities available, while your deeper self, the God within you, sees all and knows the perfect way to bring about your good. I am reminded of a woman who desperately wanted to move to a specific city where she felt her career would flourish. She had tried repeatedly to secure a position there, but had been unsuccessful. In frustration, she came to me for advice. I suggested that instead of focusing on this specific city and the exact way she thought her desire should be fulfilled, she should simply assume the feeling of having a fulfilling career and a wonderful place to live. The where and how was not for her to determine. She began to live in this more general assumption, feeling gratitude for her perfect position, an ideal living situation without specifying the location or circumstances. Within weeks, she was offered a position she had never even considered in a different city entirely, but one that offered everything she had truly desired in terms of career growth, lifestyle, and living environment. Had she continued to insist that her desire must be fulfilled in exactly the way she had originally conceived, she would have missed this perfect opportunity. This is the wisdom of surrendering the how while maintaining absolute faith in the fulfillment of the what. It is to say, this or something better now manifests for me, rather than it must be exactly this, in exactly this way. When you live as if everything always works out, you develop a flexibility, an openness to infinite possibilities that actually accelerates the manifestation of your desires. You allow yourself to be surprised by grace, to be astonished by the creative solutions that emerge when you trust the process completely. And now, my friends, I wish to address the most profound aspect of this principle. When you live as if everything always works out, you are actually aligning yourself with the fundamental nature of reality. For the universe is, at its core, supportive, abundant, and oriented toward growth and fulfillment. The appearance of struggle, lack, and limitation is just that, an appearance, a temporary distortion produced by false assumptions. When you assume that everything works out perfectly, you are not adopting a fake positive attitude. You are aligning yourself with the truth of existence. This is why this principle works so reliably. It is not some magical technique or psychological trick. It is simply the recognition and embodiment of how reality actually functions. The universe is not against you, it is for you. Life is not a struggle to overcome obstacles. It is a joyful unfolding of ever greater good. When you live from this recognition, life becomes increasingly effortless. Problems solve themselves. Opportunities appear as if by magic. Relationships harmonize. Health improves. Abundance flows. Not because you are manipulating reality, but because you are aligning yourself with the true nature of reality. Now I want to share with you a practice that will help you embody this principle more fully. Each night, as you lie in bed preparing for sleep, review the events of your day from the perspective that everything is working out perfectly for you. Even the challenges, the disappointments, the apparent setbacks, see them all as part of a perfectly orchestrated plan for your growth and fulfillment. Feel genuine gratitude for everything that happened, knowing that it is all moving you toward your good. Then, from this state of gratitude and trust, imagine the fulfillment of your current desires. See them as already accomplished. Feel the joy, the relief, the satisfaction of having what you desire now. Fall asleep in this state of fulfillment and trust. This practice done consistently will revolutionize your life. For the state of consciousness in which you fall asleep is particularly powerful in conditioning your subconscious mind, which then goes to work to bring about the conditions and circumstances that match your assumptions. Remember, your subconscious mind does not argue with you. It simply accepts what you feed it through your conscious assumptions and then works faithfully to bring these assumptions into your experienced reality. This is why the state in which you fall asleep is so crucial. It sets the tone for the manifestations that will follow. Many of you have heard the biblical phrase, "Let not the sun go down upon your anger." This is not merely moral advice, it is practical instruction in the art of conscious creation. To fall asleep in a state of anger, worry, or fear is to impress these states upon your subconscious mind, which then manifests corresponding experiences in your life. Conversely, to fall asleep in a state of confidence that everything is working out perfectly is to impress this assumption upon your subconscious, which then goes to work to bring about experiences that confirm this belief. So practice this nightly review and revision. See your day through the lens of perfect unfoldment. Feel gratitude for all of it. Then imagine the fulfillment of your desires as you drift into sleep. Do this consistently and watch how your life transforms. Now, let me address a question that often arises in relation to this principle. Neville, people ask, if everything always works out, why do I see so much evidence to the contrary in my life and in the world? This is a profound question that deserves a thoughtful answer. What you see in your life and in the world is not evidence of how reality fundamentally works. It is evidence of the assumptions that have been collectively and individually accepted. The appearance of things not working out is simply the manifestation of the assumption that things don't work out. When you change your assumption, when you live as if everything always works out, you begin to see evidence of this new assumption in your experience. At first, it may be small things, a problem that resolves itself unexpectedly, an opportunity that appears out of nowhere. But as you persist in your new assumption, the evidence grows until your entire life reflects the truth that everything does indeed work out perfectly. As for the wider world and its apparent problems, remember that what you see is filtered through your own consciousness. When you assume that everything works out, you begin to notice the evidence of this even in world events. You see the growth that comes from challenges, the new systems that emerge from the breakdown of old ones, the way humanity evolves through its difficulties. This does not mean becoming detached or uncaring about the world's struggles. On the contrary, by holding the assumption that everything works out perfectly, you actually contribute to the resolution of these struggles. For collective reality, like individual reality, is shaped by consciousness. And every individual who shifts to a higher assumption helps elevate the collective consciousness. I want to share with you a story from my own experience that illustrates the power of this principle in action. Years ago, I was scheduled to give a lecture in a city I had never visited before. My train was delayed, and by the time I arrived, it was already past the scheduled start time of my talk. I had no idea where the venue was located, and this was long before cell phones or GPS. Most people would have panicked in this situation. But I had been living for years in the assumption that everything always works out perfectly for me. So instead of worrying, I simply maintained this assumption. I hailed a taxi and told the driver I needed to get to a lecture venue, though I couldn't recall the exact address. To my amazement, the driver said, "Are you Mr. Goddard? I was just at the venue where you're supposed to speak. They sent me to look for you at the train station. But I missed you there." He proceeded to drive me directly to the venue where the audience was patiently waiting. Was this luck? A coincidence? I do not believe so. It was the natural outworking of my assumption that everything always works out perfectly. The outer circumstances had to rearrange themselves to match this inner conviction. I have experienced this kind of coincidence countless times in my life, and I know many of you have as well. When you live in the assumption that everything works out, these synchronicities become the norm rather than the exception. This is because, at the deepest level, there are no separate events or circumstances. All is connected in the one consciousness that underlies all of creation. When you assume a state within consciousness, you activate a pattern of connections that brings about the manifestation of that state in your experience. So live boldly in the assumption that everything always works out. Know that the entire universe is conspiring for your good, arranging every detail perfectly, guiding you unfailingly toward the fulfillment of your desires. And now I want to address what may be the most important aspect of this principle. When you live as if everything always works out, you are not merely changing your personal circumstances, you are fulfilling your divine purpose. For your purpose here is to express the infinite potential of the God within you, to manifest more and more of the divine nature in your lived experience. God, the infinite consciousness that is your true identity, is absolute good, absolute abundance, absolute love, absolute wisdom. When you assume that everything works out perfectly, you are allowing more of this divine nature to express through you. You are fulfilling the very purpose for which you came into being. This is why living from this assumption feels so good, so right, so natural. It is alignment with your true self. It is the remembrance of who you really are. It is the reclaiming of your divine heritage. So do not think of this principle as merely a technique for getting what you want. Think of it as the pathway to becoming who you truly are, a divine being having a human experience, a creator made in the image of the creator, an expression of infinite potential in finite form. When you live as if everything always works out, you are saying to the universe, I remember who I am. I reclaim my divine nature. I accept my role as a conscious creator. And the universe responds with an enthusiastic yes. to this remembrance, this reclamation, this acceptance. As we draw to a close this evening, I want to leave you with a simple but powerful practice. For the next 7 days, I challenge you to live completely in the assumption that everything always works out perfectly for you. No matter what appears in your outer experience, maintain this assumption without wavering. When you wake in the morning, affirm to yourself, everything is working out perfectly for me today. Feel the relief, the confidence, the trust that comes with this assumption. Then go about your day watching for the evidence that confirms your assumption. When challenges arise, and they will remind yourself this too is working out perfectly, look for the gift, the lesson, the redirection contained within the challenge. Maintain your assumption regardless of appearances. At night, review your day through the lens of perfect unfoldment. See how everything contributed to your growth and good, even if you don't yet understand exactly how. Feel gratitude for the perfect unfolding of your life. Then sleep in the confidence that tomorrow will unfold with the same perfection. Do this for 7 days without missing a single moment of alignment with this assumption. At the end of the 7 days, look back and notice how your experience has shifted, how problems have resolved themselves, how opportunities have appeared, how your inner state has transformed. This 7-day practice can be the beginning of a completely new way of living a life of trust, a flow of alignment with your divine nature, a life where struggle gives way to ease, where fear gives way to confidence, where limitation gives way to abundance. For when you truly live as if everything always works out perfectly, you are living in the truth of your being. And the truth, as we are promised, will set you free. Now, my friends, go forth in the confidence that everything is working out perfectly for you, not because you wish it to be so, not because you have mentally affirmed it, but because it is the absolute truth of your existence. You are divine consciousness expressing in human form, and the entire universe is conspiring for your unfoldment, your growth, your fulfillment. Live from this truth, embody this truth, become this truth, and watch as your life transforms into the glorious expression of divine potential that it was always meant to be. Remember, consciousness is the only reality. And when your consciousness is aligned with the truth that everything always works out perfectly, then that becomes your experienced reality. It is the law, as infallible as gravity, as certain as mathematics. The choice is yours, as it has always been. Choose to live as if everything always works out, and it will. This is my promise to you, based not on theory, but on decades of testing this principle in my own life and witnessing its operation in the lives of countless others. Trust the process. Trust the law. Trust your divine nature, and all will be well, more gloriously well than your human mind can currently conceive. Thank you for your attention this evening. May you go forth in the certainty that everything always works out perfectly for you, now and forever. I am not referring to some distant deity sitting on a cloud, passing judgment on his creation. No, the God of whom I speak is your own wonderful human imagination. This is the God that created all things and continues to create your world even now. The eternal body of man is the imagination that is God himself, as Blake so brilliantly expressed. This divine presence is not separate from you. It is the very core of your being. It is the I am consciousness that declares itself whenever you say, I am. When you state, I am wealthy, I am healthy, I am loved, you are activating the creative power of God within you. This power never sleeps, never fails, and never abandons the work it has begun in you. Perhaps you look at your current circumstances and see evidence that contradicts the fulfillment of your desires. You may see limitation where you crave abundance, illness where you long for health, or solitude where you yearn for companionship. And you wonder, has God abandoned me? Is the process broken? I tell you with absolute certainty, God is not done with you. Your physical senses present a world of effects, but the true causative power lies in your imagination. What you now experience as your reality was once only imagined. And what you now imagine with feeling and conviction must, by law, externalize itself in your world. The divine process. The process by which imagination creates reality follows an inviolable pattern. First comes the seed, your assumption. When you assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, you plant this seed in the fertile soil of consciousness. Then comes a period of gestation. During this interval, the conditions necessary for your assumption's fulfillment are being arranged in ways your conscious mind cannot perceive. Many abandon their desires during this critical gestation period, not understanding the perfect timing of divine law. They mistake the silence for absence, the darkness for defeat. But I tell you, this is the very moment to intensify your faith, to deepen your conviction that God's work in you continues unabated, unseen. The seed must decompose before the new growth appears. There is always a period of darkness, of apparent nothingness, before the manifestation of the new state. This is nature's way, and nature is but God's method of operation. Consider the miracle of a simple seed. Place it in the ground, and to all appearances it dies. There is a period where nothing seems to happen. Is the process incomplete? Has nature abandoned its purpose? No, beneath the surface, invisible to human eyes, a magnificent transformation is occurring. The seed casing breaks down, releasing the life force within. Roots extend downward. A shoot pushes upward, and in perfect timing, not a moment too soon or too late, new life emerges into the light. So it is with the seeds of your desires. Once planted in consciousness through the feeling of the wish fulfilled, they enter a period of invisible development. This is not a time of inactivity, but of the most profound activity beyond the detection of your senses. Do not despair during this period of seeming nothingness. Do not interpret the silence as abandonment. God is not done with you. The divine process continues, arranging the 1,000 details necessary for your assumption to flower into fact. Persistence in the face of contradiction. The world of Caesar, the world of physical evidence, will always present facts that contradict your new assumption. This is the greatest test of your faith. Can you persist in your assumption despite the testimony of your senses? When the man with the withered hand was commanded to stretch it forth, all physical evidence argued against the possibility. His experience, his memory, medical opinion, all would have counseled against attempting the impossible. Yet in that critical moment, he did not consult his past, but activated his imagination to feel what it would be like to have a perfectly functioning hand. He persisted in this new assumption despite all contradictory evidence, and his hand was restored. You too must develop this capacity to persist in your new assumption regardless of contradictory appearances. Your physical senses can only show you what has been manifested from past imaginings. They cannot reveal what is being shaped now through your present act of imagination. Remember the words attributed to Jesus, judge not according to the appearance, but judge righteous judgment. Righteous judgment is to judge from the standpoint of your wish fulfilled, to see what is not yet visible to mortal eyes. When you find yourself beset by doubts, when the voice of reason lists all the obstacles to your desires' fulfillment, when well-meaning friends counsel you to be realistic, this is the moment to reaffirm, God is not done with me. The process is unfolding perfectly. That which I've assumed in my imagination is already mine in the reality of consciousness, and must shortly become mine in the world of effects. The law of identical harvest. A fundamental law of creation is that you always reap what you sow. Your harvest will be identical in kind to your seed. If you plant corn, you will not harvest wheat. If you plant assumptions of lack, you cannot reap abundance. Many pray fervently for one state, while constantly imagining themselves in its opposite. They pray for health while fixating on symptoms. They desire wealth while mentally rehearsing their financial worries. They long for love while imaginatively dwelling on their loneliness. Then they wonder why God seems to have abandoned their cause. I tell you, God has not abandoned you. The Lord is functioning perfectly. You are experiencing precisely what you have planted in consciousness through your dominant assumptions. If you desire a different harvest, you must plant different seeds. You must revise your concept of self. Instead of accepting the suggestion of limitation, consciously choose the assumption of fulfillment. Feel yourself to be the person you wish to be. Experience imaginatively the state you long to occupy. Do this with the conviction that God's process is at work within you. Your conscious assumption activates the divine creative power, which then works day and night, independently of your conscious awareness, to bring about the conditions necessary for your assumption's fulfillment. The present moment is the point of creation. Many believe that fulfillment lies in some distant future, that they must wait for God to complete his work. But I tell you, the only point of creation is the eternal now. God's work in you is completed the moment you fully accept your assumption as fact. In imagination, step into the state of your wish fulfilled. Experience it with all the vividness you can muster. Feel the naturalness of being what you desire to be. Then know with absolute certainty that in the reality of consciousness, the only true reality or desire is already fulfilled. The time it takes for this inner fulfillment to become apparent to your senses is determined by the intensity of your feeling and the naturalness of your assumption. Some desires manifest instantly, while others require a period of unfoldment. But make no mistake, the creative act is completed in the moment of assumption. God is not working toward the fulfillment of your desire. In the moment you assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, that desire was granted. What follows is not creation, but the emergence into visibility of that which is already complete, the Sabbath rest. After God completed his work of creation, he rested. This is a profound mystical truth that holds the key to successful manifestation. When you have planted the seed of your desire through conscious assumption, you must enter the Sabbath, the state of mental rest. Many undermine their creative work by continuing to labor anxiously after the seed is planted. They dig up the seed repeatedly to check if it's growing. They water it with tears of doubt and fear. They hover over it with the anxious concern of a parent whose lack of trust impedes the natural development of their child. To trust the process is to enter the Sabbath rest. Having assumed the feeling of your wish fulfilled, you release all anxiety about how and when it will appear in your world. You know with unshakable confidence that what you have planted must, by divine law, come to harvest. This rest is not inactivity, but the highest form of activity, the activity of faith. It is a mental stillness that reflects absolute confidence in the perfect operation of divine law. It is the peace that comes from knowing that God is not done with you, that the process continues perfectly without your anxious supervision. The principle of revision. If you have planted seeds contrary to your desires, if you have accepted limiting assumptions that now manifest as unwanted conditions, do not despair. The divine power of revision is always available to you. Through the art of revision, you can literally re-roar past. As you drop into sleep tonight, replay the events of your day, not as they occurred, but as you wish they had occurred. Feel the joy, the satisfaction, the fulfillment that would be yours had things gone ideally. This is not mere fantasy or escapism. This is the activation of the divine process of creation. Your imaginal act, impressed upon the malleable substance of consciousness, will work backward and forward to bring about conditions in harmony with your revised version. God is not done with your past any more than he is done with your future. All time exists simultaneously in the eternal now of consciousness. What you have experienced as past remains alive and subject to revision through the power of your imagination. The bridge of incidents between your present state and the fulfillment of your desire stretches what I call the bridge of incidents, a series of seemingly unrelated ends that lead inevitably to your desired end. You need not concern yourself with constructing this bridge. That is the work of the divine process. Your task is simply to occupy the end, to dwell mentally in the state of your wish fulfilled, and to trust the perfect operation of the law to bring about all intermediate steps. These steps may not follow the path you would consciously choose. They may include apparent setbacks or detours. The human intellect, with its limited perspective, cannot map the shortest route between desire and fulfillment. But divine intelligence, operating through your assumption, knows the perfect way. Often, what appears to be a devastating disappointment proves to be a necessary link in the chain of fulfillment. The job you didn't get, the relationship that ended, the investment that failed, all may be essential components of the bridge leading to something far greater than you had imagined. This is why trust in the process is so essential. When you truly understand that God is not done with you, you can meet every circumstance with the conviction that it forms part of the perfect pattern leading to your good. Living from the end. The most powerful position from which to create is the end. When you mentally dwell in the end, the state of your wish fulfilled, you align yourself with the creative current that brings all things into being. Most people live from memory rather than from imagination. They allow their present to be determined by their past. But the awakened individual lives from imagination, allowing their present to be shaped by their chosen future. To live from the end is to occupy mentally the state you desire to externalize. It is to feel the naturalness of being what you want to be. It is to experience the satisfaction of having what you want to have. As you persist in this mental occupation, the present circumstances of your life begin to rearrange themselves to conform to your assumption. People, events, and conditions align perfectly to make your invisible assumption a visible fact. This is not wishful thinking or positive affirmation. This is the operation of immutable law. Your consciousness is the only reality. What you accept as true in consciousness must externalize itself in your world. There is no power outside of your own wonderful human imagination that can override this process. The pruning process. Sometimes the manifestation of your desire requires the removal of certain elements from your life. This is the necessary pruning that precedes new growth. Just as a gardener prunes a rose bush, cutting away even healthy branches to promote more abundant flowering, so the divine process sometimes removes people, circumstances, or conditions that cannot harmonize with your new assumption. This pruning may temporarily appear as loss, as disappointment, as abandonment. But I assure you, it is evidence not that God has abandoned his work in you, but that the process continues perfectly. Every apparent loss creates space for something better to enter. Every relationship that ends makes room for more fulfilling connection. Every door that closes propels you toward the open door that leads to your good. Trust the pruning process. Know that nothing essential to your happiness and fulfillment can be taken from you. That which is removed simply cannot accompany you into your new state of being. The all above assumption supersedes all lesser laws. Many believe themselves bound by limitations, physical laws, heredity, environment, past mistakes, the actions of others. They see these as insurmountable obstacles to the fulfillment of their desires. But I tell you, the law of assumption supersedes all lesser laws. When you firmly assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, all other factors must rearrange themselves to conform to your assumption. The laws of physics, biology, economics, and social interaction are not absolute. They are patterns based on collective assumptions. Your individual assumption, when maintained with conviction, can modify or suspend these lesser laws. This is the true meaning of miracle. Not a suspension of law, but the operation of higher law that transcends common expectations. You are not bound by your past, your genes, your environment, or the actions of others. These present obstacles only to the degree that you accept them as limitations. Change your fundamental assumptions, and these seeming obstacles become the very elements that contribute to your success. The states of consciousness. Your entire life is a movement through various states of consciousness. Each state has its own inherent conditions and circumstances. When you occupy a state of poverty consciousness, you experience the limitations and lacks associated with poverty. When you occupy a state of health consciousness, you experience the vitality and well-being associated with health. These states are not imposed upon you from without. You enter them through your assumptions, and you can leave any undesirable state by assuming yourself to be in its opposite. Many pray to be delivered from an unwanted state while mentally continuing to occupy it. This is like asking to be in Boston while refusing to leave Chicago. You cannot be in two cities or two states of consciousness simultaneously. If you desire to experience the conditions of abundance, you must vacate the state of poverty by assuming the feeling of abundance. If you wish to experience radiant health, you must vacate the state of illness by assuming the feeling of vitality. The divine process that I speak of is this movement from state to state, each bringing its corresponding conditions into your life. God is not done with you because this progression never ends. There are infinite states of consciousness available to you, each offering richer experiences than the last. The purpose of the process. You may wonder why the process unfolds as it does. Why doesn't God simply grant your desire instantly? Why the waiting, the unfolding, the bridge of incidents? The purpose of the process is not merely to give you the thing desired, but to transform you into the person who can receive and maintain it. The unfoldment perfectly paces your evolution in consciousness. If you received instantly everything your surface mind desires, without the corresponding development in consciousness, you would either fail to recognize your good or be unable to sustain it. Consider the lottery winners who receive vast wealth without the consciousness of wealth, only to lose it all within a few years. Consider the person who achieves their dream relationship, but lacking the consciousness of being loved, sabotages it through insecurity and fear. The divine process works not just to bring you your desire, but to bring you into alignment with it. The waiting period, which so many interpret as delay or denial, is actually exact time needed for you to develop the consciousness that can contain your good. Trust this process. Know that God is not done with you. The perfect pattern of your unfoldment is proceeding exactly as it should. The promise. Beyond all manifestation of specific desires, what I call the promise, the ultimate purpose of the divine process working in you. This promise is your complete awakening to your true identity as God individualized. All lesser manifestations, wealth, health, relationships, achievements are steps leading to this supreme realization. They are important, yes, but they are not the final purpose of the process. God is not done with you because the work continues until the promise is fulfilled in you, until you awaken fully to the truth that you are God in human form, that there is no power outside of your consciousness, that you are the author of all that you experience. This awakening does not come through effort or merit. It unfolds in its appointed time, after you have exhausted your desire for lesser gifts. When you have experienced all that you wish to have and be in this world, the promise begins to stir within you. Signs of its approach include increased detachment from worldly concerns, spontaneous visions of spiritual significance, and a growing awareness of your identity with the divine I am. When the promise is fulfilled, you know beyond all doubt that you and the Father are one, persisting through the dark night. Almost everyone who walks this path experiences what has been called the dark night of the soul, a period of profound doubt, confusion, and seeming abandonment. During this phase, all that you have believed appears to fail you. Your manifestations cease, your faith wavers, and God seems utterly absent from your life. This dark night is not evidence that the process has failed, but that it has reached a critical juncture. It is the final purification before a significant breakthrough. It is the darkness before dawn. During this period, old beliefs and attachments are being dissolved to make way for a new level of consciousness. The caterpillar must enter the darkness of the chrysalis and experience the dissolution of its caterpillar identity before it can as a butterfly. If you are experiencing such a dark night, take heart. God is not done with you. This is not abandonment, but transformation. Hold fast to your faith, not with desperate clutching, but with quiet confidence. Continue to assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, even when all evidence argues against it. Those who persist through the dark night emerge with a kite that cannot be shaken, a knowledge that cannot be undermined by temporary appearances. They become masters of creation rather than victims of circumstance. The transformed mind. As you work with the law of assumption and trust the divine process, your mind undergoes a profound transformation. You develop what the Bible calls the mind of Christ, a consciousness aligned perfectly with divine creative power. This transformed mind is not swayed by appearances. It judges not by sensory evidence, but by the reality of imagination. It knows that what is seen is temporary, while what is unseen is eternal. With this mind, you no longer react to conditions. You respond to them creatively, knowing that your consciousness determines your experience, not the other way around. You no longer pray to be delivered from circumstances, but realize your power to transform them through the assumption of the state you desire. This is the true second birth, not of flesh, but of consciousness. You are born anew into a realization of your creative power and your identity with the divine I am. The community of the faithful. As you walk this path of conscious creation, you will find yourself drawn to others who understand and apply these principles. This is the true meaning of church, not an external organization, but a gathering of those who worship in spirit and in truth. You need not proselytize or convince others of what you have discovered. Those who are ready will be drawn to you naturally. Those who are not will fall away, often without conflict or drama. This sorting is not your responsibility, but part of the divine process. God is not done with them either, though their path may differ from yours for a season. Share your understanding with those who show genuine interest, but avoid casting your pearls before those who would trample them underfoot through ridicule or argumentative opposition. The truth you embody will speak more persuasively than any verbal argument. The eternal expansion. The divine process never truly ends, for consciousness is eternally expansive. There is no final state, no ultimate achievement that completes your journey. Each fulfillment opens the door to new desires, new possibilities, new expressions of the infinite creative power within you. This eternal expansion is cause for celebration, not concern. It means that life never grows stale, never becomes routine, never reaches a point of stagnation. There are always new worlds to conquer, new aspects of yourself to discover, new joys to experience. God is not done with you because God, your own wonderful human imagination, is the ever-creating, ever-expanding essence of life itself. As you align with this creative flow, accepting its perfect timing and infinite wisdom, you experience the joy that comes from participating consciously in the eternal unfoldment. Practical application. To close our discussion tonight, let me offer some practical guidance for applying these principles in your daily life. Select a desire that, if fulfilled, would bring you genuine joy. Make it specific enough to generate real feeling, but general enough to allow for flexible fulfillment. Construct a short scene that implies your desire's fulfillment. Perhaps it's a friend congratulating you, or you simply observing evidence that your wish has come to pass. Enter a state of relaxation through whatever method works best for you. Physical relaxation facilitates mental receptivity. In this relaxed state, enact your scene in imagination. See it through your own eyes, not as an observer. Feel the textures, hear the sounds, experience the emotions that would accompany fulfillment. Repeat this scene until it feels natural, until it has the tone of reality. This may require one session or many, depending on your capacity for feeling and your attachment to contrary evidence. Throughout your day, whenever doubt arises, remind yourself, God is not done with me. The process is unfolding perfectly. Then briefly recall the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Release all anxiety about how your desire will manifest. The bridge of incidents will form naturally through the wisdom of divine law. Express gratitude for the fulfillment of your desire, not as something to come, but as something already accomplished in consciousness. Watch for and follow intuitive promptings. These inner nudges are often part of the bridge of incidents leading to your manifestation. When your desire manifests, acknowledge the operation of law. This strengthens your faith for future creations. Remember, the process I describe is not magical thinking or wishful imagination. It is the deliberate application of the creative law that shapes all experience. It requires practice, persistence, and unwavering faith in the midst of contradictory appearances. Final words. My dear friends, as we conclude our time together, let me leave you with this final assurance: God is not done with you. The divine process that shapes your destiny continues perfectly, bringing you ever closer to the complete realization of your desires and ultimately to the fulfillment of the promise. Do not be discouraged by temporary appearances of failure or delay. Do not interpret the silence as abandonment. In the depths of consciousness, in the invisible realm where all creation begins, your assumption is being given form and substance, preparing to emerge into the world of physical reality. Trust the process as you would trust the growth of a seed planted in fertile soil. Having planted your desire through conscious assumption, enter the Sabbath rest of absolute confidence. Know that what you have planted must, by immutable law, come to harvest. You are not subject to chance or fate. You are not the victim of circumstances or the prisoner of past mistakes. You are the operating power of God in this world, creating your reality through the choices of consciousness. As you leave this place tonight, go with the conviction that the work begun in you continues to its perfect fulfillment. God is not done with you. The process unfolds exactly as it should. Your task is simply to maintain the faithful assumption that what you desire is already yours in the one true reality, the reality of consciousness. In that conviction lies your power, your peace, and the certainty of manifestation. God bless you all.